Hello everybody and welcome back to Mother Manada's YouTube channel. Today, I'll be talking about the brain. First, we're going to be discussing the evolution of the brain. Around 6 million years ago, humans started standing upright and making simple tools. This didn't require much brain power, and the brain grew, but very slowly. And then 2 million years ago, the brain and the body size increased as humans encounter new environments and need bigger and better brains to help them survive. Now, 800,000 years ago, climate change fluctuates a lot. This means that humans need better ways to interact with their surroundings, and the brain grows rapidly and develops very fast. 2020, brains today. Studies suggest that human brains are still growing rapidly, and there are many more things that humans as a species are going to discover later on. Now, here is a chart that shows brain growth. As you can see, that these are millions of years ago. These are our ancestors, and the very oldest ancestors had not as big brains, and then as you can see in the beginning, the growth of our brains was pretty slow, and then when we got closer to today's day, our brains are growing bigger and bigger. And here you can see we are over here on this area. We're not as fast as the Homo sapiens sapiens. And this is a diagram of the different stages of evolution. Here you can see that all humans are descended from the old world monkeys, and they split off into the hominidea, and that splits off even further into the hominidae, the homini, and the Homo, which is us, humans. Now let's talk about the different parts of the brain. The occipital lobe. This part of the brain is in the back part and is responsible for sight. It turns pictures right side up because when we look in, the light comes in like this, so the whole image is flipped upside down, but the occipital lobe turns it back right side up. It helps us recognize objects. And now, the temporal lobe. This is responsible for hearing, memory, meaning, language, and is concerned with interpreting and processing auditory stimuli. This means that it's responsible for processing the sound waves that we hear and turning it so that our brains can understand it. The parietal lobe. It's found above the temporal lobe, behind the frontal lobe, and in front of the occipital lobe. It processes nerve impulses related to the senses such as touch, pain, taste, pressure, and temperature, and others. The frontal lobe. This is concerned with emotions, reasoning, planning, movement, and parts of speech. So basically anything that we think about. It's involved in purposeful acts such as creativity, judgment, problem solving, and it's the largest of all lobes because obviously you need lots of brain power for all of these things. The cerebral cortex. This controls thinking, voluntary movements, perception, language, reasoning, and in higher mammals, the cortex looks like it has a lot of wrinkles, bumps, and grooves because they need to pack all this into a smaller space. The cerebellum. This controls your movement as well, balance, which is pretty important, coordination, and posture. This is in the back part of your brain near this area. And the limbic system is found buried inside the cerebellum. The hypothalamus. This controls body temperature, emotions, hunger, and thirst, and appetite, digestion. So basically anything that is a lot of things that are involuntary. And it's located at the base of the brain, like near the bottom-ish middle. And it's only 1/300th of the total brain weight, and it controls all of this stuff. Now let's talk about the thalamus. This controls sensory integration, motor integration, and relays sensory info to the cerebral cortex. Now, sensory and motor integration means that it takes all of our sensory and motor skills and integrates them with our brain so that we can move properly. The cerebral cortex also sends info back to the thalamus, and then the thalamus sends it to the brainstem and other parts of the brain. The pituitary gland. This controls hormones, and without it, you could still eat food but wouldn't get energy out of it, which would be pretty useless. The pineal gland. This controls growing, maturing, and is activated by light. So if you lived in the dark your entire life, you would never grow or mature. That's why you can see like the skeletons of the humans that lived in the dark all their lives were not as tall or grew as much. The amygdala. This controls emotions, and it's responsible for when you're happy or mad, and it's pretty important. Otherwise, you would never be happy. The hippocampus. This forms and restores memories, involved in learning, and without it, you wouldn't be able to learn anything. Alzheimer's disease means that the hippocampus stops functioning. Brainstem. This regulates functions such as breathing, digestion, heartbeat, and so it's very involuntary. Now, here is a diagram of the brain, and you can see where all of the pieces of our brain are. This is the cerebellum, here's the brainstem, and here's the temporal lobe, the hypothalamus, and the frontal lobe. This is the temporal lobe, this is the pineal gland, this is the parietal lobe, and yeah, lots of things. Now let's talk about the nervous system. The brain is a part of the nervous system, and is the command center and main part. The spinal cord makes up the other half, and so do all the nerves that run through our body. And these nerves act like a super speed highway for the brain to relay information very quickly so that we can move as soon as we think about it. Now, let's talk a bit about animal brains. These all vary in size because, as you know, there's lots of different types of animals. And this doesn't mean that bigger the brain, the smarter, because there's a couple of animals that have bigger brains than us, but as you know, that doesn't mean that they're smarter. And the human brain closely resembles the chimpanzee brain, which is also another evidence that humans are related to chimpanzees. Animals are better at some things than us. For example, chimpanzees pass humans in memory tasks. Parrots can mimic the human language. Goats have excellent long-term memory. Elephants can work together. Dolphins recognize themselves in a mirror, which may not seem like much, but dogs and cats can't. And scrub jays, which are a type of bird, they plan for the future. Now, here is a comparison of some different brain sizes. So as you can see, compared to these, the human brain is bigger. Now it's time for some interesting facts. First, let's debunk some popular myths. 1. We only use 10% of our brains. There is some unused brain tissue, but we use way more than 10%. 2. The brain deteriorates as old age comes. True for some things, opposite for other things. Like, for example, with age comes wisdom. 3. We only have 5 senses. That's not true at all. We actually have over 21 senses. The 5 senses are just the main senses. 4. The brain is hardwired. It's not. We create new neural pathways all the time. The brain can grow and change. A conch on the head can cause amnesia. This is not true. Conch on the head is not enough to make you forget everything. The largest brain. The largest brain belongs to the sperm whale. Cool stuff. The cerebral cortex contains 16 billion neurons. This is more than any other animal. The brain generates about 23 watts of power when you're awake. That's enough to power a lot of things. The brain gets 20% of total blood and oxygen in the body, and it's only 3 pounds. Nerve impulses can travel at 119 meters per second. This is how the brain gets information across the body so fast. The brain is also one of the fattest organs in the body. Here are the sources that I learned all this information from if you want to dive deeper. I'll put these links in the description down below so that you can learn further. Now here is the sketch of the brain and the end. Thank you for listening to this video, guys. If it helped you learn something new today, please like and subscribe to this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye!